We are working on an is250 today. We're going to do a starter on it. I'm going to show you how to get this job done, you know, quick and easy. I'm going to show you everything, where the bolts are, what to take off, how to get to things. You know, these other videos, they don't show you, but I'm going to show you. I don't know why they don't show you. It's not like it's really that hard to stick your camera up in there and show people the bolts and how you get things off, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get to it. Let's get this car jacked up. is250. Let's begin. We're going to get it on a big jack stand right there. Secure the vehicle. Let's crawl underneath this beast and see what we got. All right, now I know the starter's in the back of the motor somewhere, right between the engine and transmission, of course. We're gonna take the shield off right here, just on the other side of this pan right here. All right, let's take that shield off. Plastic, 10 millimeter. Let's get them off. There's like 4 bolts, 10 millimeter screws. You're gonna have to get off. All right, you put that bad boy over here. Pick up your screws and put them on top of that. Now let's see if we can get a little visual on it. Okay, I'm looking straight up. There's the converter. Follow it up. If you follow it up, you'll see the starter right there. Right there. So here's a bolt right here. Let's get on the other side a little bit deeper. Oh, yeah. So there's a bolt on top of that bolt up there. You can't really see it, but it's there. So we're gonna have to get a long extension and bring it in from back by the transmission, a long one, maybe 2 foot long with a swivel on it, and we'll be able to get that bolt. The only trick about this job is, so far, is getting out the bolts off the starter, and you got to have the right tools. That's the only thing about this, and I'm going to show you what I used, and that was easy. I do want to mention that these bolts on this vehicle were very tight. Okay, so if you don't have a little straight shot at that if you don't have a straight shot at the bolts and that socket is cocked a little bit, you're just going to strip that bolt head right off of there. It's a soft bolt is what I'm trying to say. This is what I used. For the lower bolt, I used one of these ratchets. Very important to get a ratchet that can do that. All right, and actually this is actually the perfect ratchet for the job. So you can get right on that lower bolt on the starter and you can just slip it in. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, that bolt is right there. Okay, we get the light on it. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see it or not. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, right there is the hole. This flipped like that, and you can get the socket on it like that. Okay, and I have a handle on it, so it was the perfect tool for this job. Now on the back side, it's hard to get that bottom bolt. I know they said a long extension through this way, through that way, and get the bolt, but it's going to be cocked. It was harder that way to get that lower bolt out. It's easier to come in with a ratchet through here and put it on there and break it loose. You have enough room to break it loose right here. Bigger on the longer one, I just use this. I use 3 extensions because I don't have one solid one. And I just went all the way in the back. All right, now reach your hand up there on the starter over there and kind of wiggle it. You should be able to pull the bolt right out of there, like that. Okay. And I used, on my ratchets, I used the wobbly ratchets, not straight ratchet. Not a straight extension, but the wobbly extensions. I'll show you what they look like. They look like that. Maybe one straight one and one wobbly would be better fit, but actually this worked just fine. And even though, and they're really, and it's a 3/8 drive extension. And what I used, because they were really tight, I used a 2-foot breaker bar 3/8 drive and started it up here, and I just pulled down and the thing was bending and torquing and finally just popped loose. So that's what I did. And yeah, so now I should be able to get up here. And you guys hear it. You hear it wobbling around in there. So now I'll disconnect the positive. I'll disconnect the battery. All right, guys, what I'm doing now is I'm going to get that connector off. I'm going to push that little button on it with a long screwdriver, or stick my finger in there and push the button and try to pull that connector off would be my next step. All right, guys, I do want to mention that the positive cable coming from the battery. All right, if you look, there's the converter. If you look up there on that harness, you'll see a connector on a mounting bracket up there. And what I did, I can't get my hands up in there to release the tab, so I just popped it open with a long screwdriver. And now my cable, I should be able to get a couple more inches on it as I pull that starter forward. So I probably got another inch. I can maneuver the starter around, because that cable was kind of tight. It was keeping that starter to the rear. You couldn't get it forward anymore. So let's just see if that works out any for me. All right, another thing that I'm going to do to make this job a little bit easier for you guys and for myself is that steering linkage right there. I'm going to take that 11mm nut bolt out of there, and that should slide up, and I can get it out of the way so I can have more hand room in there. It's going to help out things a lot. So, and you can get that bolt off, that 13mm bolt off easier, that cable, if you get that out of the way. That's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I put a mark, because they're splined, right? You see those splines right down there where my light is? So I put the little black mark on the splines and one on the sleeve, let's call it, and that way I can line them back up. So I'm going to pull that out. How I'm going to do that is I'm just going to get a screwdriver or a pry bar, stick it in between there, and just pry it off. Trying to do that and do the camera at the same time is kind of difficult. All right, and just simply pull it out of the way and lay that bad boy right over here. Try not to spin the steering wheel, because that's connected to the steering wheel. Leave that alone. All right, and now you should have enough room to maneuver the starter in a position where you can get that cable off. We're going to find out. All right, guys, now with that steering linkage out of the way, you'll be able to maneuver, which is not hard at all to maneuver, so you can get to that 13mm bolt with no problem. So yeah, that's how you do this. All right, guys, on the nose, You're gonna put the nose out first, and look at the solenoid is going to the front of the car. All right, the solenoid. That's all there is to it right there. Goes in the same way. Not a problem. All right, let's get a new starter on here. Remember how you took it out. I want you guys to notice that I did take out that little shaft. You just got to mark the ends before you pull them off and match them up with your marks on the shaft itself, and that way you gain access to get that bolt off right there. None of the videos I saw said anything about any of these bolts, especially this bolt right here. So, and there's the starter plug right there. That's a little skinny wire that goes in to activate the activates the starter. Let's get it in there. And this will slide up and down. Once you take this bolt off right there and you take that off, this thing will slide up and down the shaft. Pop one out and then you pop the other out. Not a big deal. All right, let's get this new starter in there. Nose down, solenoid to the front of the vehicle. And it's in there. So now we got to get the cables back on there. All right, guys, this is what the cable looks like coming from your battery. All right, it's got an angle on it. It's got an angle on it. Sorry about the camera work. So you got to pull it that way and then slip over the bolt, push it on there, and then put the nut on it like that. So let's get it mounted. All right, I did end up getting that cable on there, but what I did is I took off a little nut right up there, that little plastic piece. Here's the tire. So you can get your hand in through here, and you can actually manage it here and through here at the same time, so you can get the cable on it. Okay, is how I did it. You see that hole? Mm-hmm. Okay. Go ahead and get this thing crunk up. Fire in the hole. That'll work, thank you. Now that we got it done, just notice on that shaft, it only can go on one way. Still mark your marks, still mark it, but on that top shaft, it only goes on one way. So you're just gonna have to move a little bit, push, move, push, put some grease, put some penetrating oil on those splines and get it on there. It's not a real big deal. So I'm just letting you know, if you think you're gonna push it on there any old way, you're not, okay? Because it only goes on one way, but it's not a big deal. So we got that done. That took me. Hayes Mobile Auto Repair. We're in Jackson, Mississippi. Thanks for watching.